Hi y'all, welcome to my shop. You may recall August last year I did a video on how to turn a milk jug into a turning blank. I finally got around to turning this little threaded box. I was going to make a YouTube short video, that's one less than 60 seconds, but unfortunately somehow my camera flipped all the images around and I finally gave up uh, trying to fix them. So cutting up a milk jug and Pringles can, HDPE, and turning it into a blank can be quite an exercise. You get pretty tedious cutting up all those tiny little pieces of milk jugs, and in addition trying to form it into a blank that you got to heat up. You got to have a fair size oven to do that in, and to get it without any voids is a challenge. So I didn't go any further with it. But when Michelle Nephew, the Atlas Games co-owner and chief creative officer, reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in receiving one of their blanks, this one in particular, to turn it, I said yes, I'd be delighted. As a game publisher, Atlas Games realized their games were made from virgin plastic shipped all over the world from China, and that's not a good thing. So they decided to do something different, started making game components out of waste plastic from their own community that they shred themselves. Now they're selling plastic shreds, they're selling turning blanks on Etsy and on their own web store. Their blank sheets of recycled plastic has swirls in it that, makes it look like a little bit like wood grain, but with a lot more color combinations. So you can find out more about that efforts in the links that I'll have in the description below. So here's the blank I just received. It is 3 inches across and 7 inches long. It's 17% denser than hard maple. So I looked at this. Okay, so what am I going to make out of it? Well, I like making boxes, so I think I'll make a box. And there's probably going to be plenty left over. I might look at maybe making some a set of soft jaws for my chuck. We'll have to wait and see. But so normally I say let's put it between centers and turn it around, but it's already round. But we're going to put it between centers so I can put a tenon on it and also cut it off. So we're going to use a large stab center to give it lots of bite. I've already marked the center. So I forget sometimes it's easier to rest your hands on the tool rest when you're trying to line something up. So I'm going to put a tenon on this end. I don't need to bother to mark it. I know it's going to be right about there. So I'm going to make a parallel tenon to fit my Rugged Power normal jaws, and it doesn't have to be a very wide tenon. So here we go. Okay. All right, so now we got a blank we can chuck up in our jaws and go ahead and part off the blank we're going to be using. So let's go ahead and this is interesting stuff to turn. It's dense, but it's also soft. But I know it'll take a thread because I've already threaded a box. So that's what we're going to do today. Is make a threaded box. So I'm going to use my normal jaws. And hold it. I got a nice clean shoulder. Can't get a piece of paper between the jaws and the blank, and that's the main thing. I'm going to go ahead and bring up tailstock support. And now, in terms of the size, Let me get a pencil. We mark the lid. We mark the box. We've got a little bit of extra area, and we've got an area for the tenon. That will be plenty big. Normally it doesn't have to be much, since it's going to be squattier than it is wide. Normally it doesn't have to be a whole lot longer than it is wide, and I've measured to 1, 2, almost 3 inches. We're going to switch to the thin parting tool, but I'm going to start off with this 1/8 inch. Makes lovely long streamers. I could probably be interesting to see how long a one I could get and make. It'd probably be 20 feet long. Now, while I have it on here, I'm thinking might be smart to go ahead and put a tenon on here for the next operation for another project. So let me go ahead and do that. No more than about 1,000. And at 1,000, normally your block's going to drop straight down for a spindle blank inside out. So I'm going to deal with this similar to it being a small bowl, and do it what I consider the easiest way to manipulate the tool. I'm just going to come in and I'm going to have this slightly pointed down, so let me bring up tool rest just a little bit. Just don't want it flat, I want it slightly down, so we're going to come in. I know you can't see that too well. I think I've got enough depth there to cut threads. Now let's smooth out that bottom with a negative rate scraper. Probably don't want a burr on this because of the density. Might be too aggressive, and this hasn't been sharpened in a while. I'm going to give this a try and let's see what happens. One thing about it, there's not going to be any sanding to it. Still got a little bit of a ridge there. Nice clean surface there, and I'm happy with that. Now let's see if I've got a square shoulder, so I'm going to get a 6-inch ruler for that. And this works for me if I just put it here and look straight down and see if it tilts in or out. And it looks like it's tilting in just slightly. So I've got to pick up that scrape and put a little more pressure toward the back. I'm going to cut right at center. We're going to start that chasing. Now, I don't have to worry, I don't think about a drunken thread, so I'm going to go ahead and put a recess back there. I'm using my shop-made recess tool. I'm going to push it to the very back and then just bring it in. So I got a stop gap, so when I go in there and I reach the end, I've got time to pull it out, otherwise it'll rip the shreds. And I'm just going to turn it up. And I've got a nice deep ridge there, and I think I've got a long enough recess there to cut several threads without any problem. More than 1/4 of an inch, about 5/16 of an inch, so I've got, I'll cut presumably about 5 threads with a 16 TPI. So we're going to move this back just a little bit. I went ahead and switched tool rest to short, robust with a hardened rod. So this one is perfectly smooth. All right, so now we're going to slow this down. We're going to chase at about a little over 300. Dry run it a little bit. Try to get what I think is the right speed to strike that thread. I'll tell you what, it doesn't get any easier to cut threads than this stuff. Now just bring it in parallel. The wood just sucks it in when it finds that groove. Now I'm going to stick this in to get a visual idea about how deep I can go before I got to pull it out. I've made this little specialty 5mm scraper, and I'm just going to chamfer right there in the corner to make it a little easier to mate those threads. Let me bring this up for support. Since it's rather thin, bring it up just a little bit. Get the speed up a little bit. Just cut a tiny little recess right there in the corner. Actually, I'll pull this back a little bit so that it supports it. And I don't want to go deeper than about 1 thread, maybe a 1/2 thread, so that's good. Just anchor the tool, ride the bevel. Now I'm just going to roll it over until it cuts, and then pull it toward me. I don't want to make these walls too thin, and that recess is pretty deep, so I better be cautious. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark where I'm going to make that bead. And I'm going to use a beading and parting tool just to mark it. And maybe I'll use this point tool to actually cut the bead. Drop the handle, roll it over. That's very nice. Okay. Now I'm going to come into the shoulder of that bead, cutting downward, and then I've got to decide about where I'm going to slope the top of the rim, so it's going to be right about there. Just roll this over until I get in that shoulder. And that looks nice. I'm happy with that. Okay. So now we're going to take this off and set it aside until we do the bottom. Okay, we got it on there. And pop it in. I did take this down just a little bit, so even when I true this up, it won't cause any problems. The thickest part of the blank is going to be about here, and then we'll taper it in. So the main thing is to get a tenon that will just fit inside here. To know how thick the tenon's going to be. So we're going to again use my beading and parting tool. I'll go back and forth till I get what I consider the right size tenon. Okay, I've got it to what I think is the right size. I've got 2 more things I need to do. I need to cut a recess. So I've got a a little more aggressive, a little longer point tool that I'm going to do that recess in the back. And I've also got to round over that front edge. And I've got this little small stem that fits inside here to kind of help size it. I think I overshot it a little bit, but I think I've got it sized about right. So we'll see. So I'm just going to come in here and go down about a 1/16 of an inch. And about a 1/16 of an inch wide. Okay. Now I'm going to round over that edge a little bit. Now we're just going to round over this edge a little bit. Because when that chaser hits it, if it hits a sharp edge, it's just going to stop. I've got to be able to actually keep that chaser moving. So now we're going to slow this down to about 315. We're going to get out, swap our inside chaser with the outside chaser. And it's got a negative rake, but I found in my experience it's got to be, you've got to really raise that handle up. So we're just going to take, again, a few practice moves. And then strike the thread. Maybe I'll bring it up just a little bit more because I found this thing needs to have a pretty steep angle to start those threads. 1, 2, here we go. But actually, this is easier to strike threads with than wood. Once I get the thread struck, I can start bringing it around. I'll get it perpendicular with the lead tooth doing most of the work. Looks like I'm almost getting that thread on there. So I'm going to keep working this off camera and then I'll come back. Okay, I've got the box threaded and I actually started taking off the top of the box. I'm just about finished with that. I'm going to come in here with the skew and just get rid of any little ripple marks that I feel. A little bit there at the top. Got a little bit more there. That's good. Just enough of a feature to make it look intentional. I need to still bring it in just a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Now, the shape of the top of the box, I want to fold this in. I want to leave it that shape, but I want to, so I'm just going to use a tool to find something to measure about how far in it's got to go, and I'm thinking it's at least a 1/16 of an inch, a bit more than a 1/16 of an inch, so that's probably going to be close enough for me to evaluate it, and I want to do that before I start hollowing. And I think I can do that by eye without any problem using the spindle gouge. The top of the fattest part of the box is going to be in the upper third, so that's where I'm going to pick up the cut. Right about here. And let's evaluate how that folds over. Not bad. I want it to fold just under that bead, so all I've got to do is just round over that sharp edge. I think I will do that with probably this skew. Turn the tool rest for support. I just want to get rid of that sharp edge and just bring that curve around there just a little bit. Slow it down a little bit. I want to keep it under 2,000 just because it feels better. And just a hint of a sharp edge there. Can't sand this, so it's got to be cut away. Okay, I like that. Now I can start shaping the box down a little bit, but I can't get very far. I think maybe I will take it down here close to the chuck jaws a little bit, just to give it myself, when I do the inside, a little feel for where it needs to go, but I don't know that I'm going to get too crazy about that. Alright, I'm getting kind of close to the chuck, so I think I will quit that until we turn it around to finish the bottom, do the outside shape. Still got a little design on one side, a little bit of texture. I think it's kind of cool looking. I think I'll just leave it as a feature. The bottom is going to be part of it, so I need to go almost to this mark. Bring this out here. Rest my hands on it. I need to actually get a little bit more of a divot there for that to follow. Okay. Still want to slow it down a little bit. I think I hit a void. Switch to a 1/2 inch. All right, I think I'm going to start using a scraper for this. I think it might be easier. I'm going to start with a square scraper to go straight in, and I'm going to mark how deep with a felt tip pen, just so I'll have a visual reference and not going any deeper than, say, right there. I've got it 1,000, bring it up to maybe 1,200. Right under here, and again, I think I want to mark the depth on here. Okay, the visual reference. Meanwhile, I've got to come up underneath here. Can't tell how fast I'm cutting, so I want to keep checking with my digital calipers here. Just want to across the middle, right there. Up, down, and across. Up, down, and across. Okay, that's good. That's good. All right, now I've got to reverse chuck this, so I need to figure out how I'm going to do that. And I think I'm going to use it, see if I can't do a screw chuck. Let's see how that works. Now I'm going to make a jam chuck. I reach into my toolbox. Here's one for 16 TPI, but it's too small, but it's got a tenon on it, so I will start with that. Pine does not make real good threads, but they're easy to cut. They don't have to last very long to make a jam chuck. The hole's got to be a little bit smaller than that. Get those threads. So let's mark that. Touch this side, not that side. That looks dead on. Get that recess tool. Turn the speed up. Got a fairly deep recess. Since we're not worried about aesthetics. We just want something that'll hold this box to finish shaping the outside and the bottom. Okay. Now, sometimes it helps to use a little fluid to kind of lubricate these threads, so I'm going to get some lubricating fluid. 10% Dawn, 90% denatured alcohol. We're going to actually turn this on while we do this. And I'm not going to bore with you this. I'll tune it up and get it fitting, and then we'll come back and finish the outside. Okay, so I've threaded my screw chuck. I've got it on there. Let's see how true it runs. It runs fairly true. I'm happy with that. Let's get the speed up a little bit. A little over 1,000. We're going to switch back to the 3/8 inch spindle gouge. Take off just a little bit at a time. Come on back to where the top of that shoulder is going to be. Bring it on around. That's how smooth this is. I've got a little bit of a sharp edge there. Let's see if I can't cut that away. Anchor the tool, ride the bevel, roll it over. Okay. I'm fairly happy with that. I could probably true it up with just a little bit with a skew, a couple of sharp edges. So let's just do that. A little over 1,000. Just. I'm looking up here to see the sharp edges, and that's where I want to just touch. Right there. Bring it around. Bring it around. I'm going to switch over in the other direction since I don't worry about a burr. Okay. Now the only thing we got left is the bottom, and we're going to concave it just a little bit. do that with, I think, this negative rake scraper. Got a little bit of tailstock live center damage here I need to get rid of. Okay, that looks good. It's flat. We don't have to worry about it warping. I think I want to put a couple of little V grooves in it. So for that, we'll use our point tool. Maybe make a little bead. I'm going to use my other point tool. It works better for beads. This one's too aggressive. You can see the difference. This one is 5/16. This is a 1/4 inch. This one is much more sharper profile, which allows you to get into corners. But this little short stubby one does better for turning beads. Drop the handle, roll it over. Drop the handle, roll it over. Got just a little bit of a bump there, still in the middle. Okay, let's see here. Got just a little bit of texture on that side as a feature. Still, I think I can still clean up that surface just a little bit better. So again, we're going to go back to the skew and just bring it around. Okay, I think we're going to call that good. Let's take it loose. May have to get a strap wrench to get that off. Alright, that did it. Just enough to free it up. So, got some fuzzies we got to get rid of, but there's our threaded box. I'm happy with that.